40 strangers carried chairs through storm toward Mara's cafe. Inside, Mara believed nobody would arrive before closing forever. That empty chair had quietly changed many forgotten lives. Now those lives returned to protect the woman inside. The story began 1 week before the cafe died. Every morning, Mara opened her cafe before neighbors awakened. She cleaned tables as though an honored guest approached. At table 7, she always placed one extra chair. Beside it, she left soup for whoever needed kindness. But kindness could not protect her cafe from bills. For months, fewer customers entered through the old door. Shelves thinned faster than Mara's courage could replace them. Still, she refused removing the chair or waiting meal. That morning, soaked Noah stopped beneath her cafe awning. Noah checked his wallet, found nothing, then turned away. Mara opened the door and pointed toward that chair. She explained the meal had already been paid for. Noah ate slowly, fearing kindness might disappear too quickly. Mara gave him something equally precious, freedom from shame. When Noah thanked her, Mara requested absolutely nothing afterward. He left without money but with his dignity restored. That afternoon, Lily studied outside because home felt overcrowded. Mara noticed her struggling and invited her toward warmth. The chair became a desk while soup became tea. Mara stayed late so Lily could finish important work. When Lily fell asleep, Mara covered her without noise. She never made the exhausted girl feel like inconvenience. Lily walked home believing her future still had space. Next morning, Arthur entered carrying silence heavier than Cain. He ordered tea, then stared at the opposite chair. Mara brought another cup and sat without difficult questions. Eventually, Arthur described the wife he missed every day. For once, his grief shared space with gentle laughter. He left grieving but no longer carrying everything alone. That evening, bicycle courier Maya stopped beneath pouring rain. Mara welcomed Maya before asking whether she could pay. The chair became shelter and the soup returned again. Carpenter Ben noticed her bicycle and offered skilled hands. One person's welcome gave someone else permission to help. Maya returned to work protected by people barely known. Next morning, she returned with bread from grateful bakers. Ben returned too, repairing shelves leaning for many years. Lily left pencils for whoever next needed the table. Arthur brought apples, claiming he owned far too many. Noah returned and asked whether dishes needed washing today. Soon, the man receiving soup was helping serve it. Mara watched their network grow while hiding deeper worries. After everyone left, the numbers still remained painfully insufficient. The landlord gave Mara 7 days to repay debt. She hid the warning before Noah noticed her fear. People who know hardship quickly recognize it within others. Noah offered his savings, but Mara gently refused them. Lily offered tutoring money. Mara returned every single coin. Arthur offered savings, but Mara protected his essential needs. Her kindness accepted help for others, never for herself. Winter rain exposed every weakness across the aging roof. Mara worked alone, moving tables away from leaking water. Above her, one wooden beam bent beneath heavy rain. She escaped before part of the ceiling finally collapsed. The room she protected for years became unsafe instantly. Repairs would cost more than Mara had ever saved. For once, even the empty chair offered no answer. The chair pulled Mara toward a rarely discussed memory. As a child, she watched warm strangers eat inside. An elderly waitress opened before young Mara walked away. She gave Mara soup, bread, and unquestioned shelter inside. Before leaving, the woman placed a brass key inside. She said safe rooms begin when someone opens them. Mara spent her whole life keeping that door open. Now she believed time had come to close forever. She locked the door, believing she failed everyone there. Then she walked away before neighbors saw her cry. Next morning, Noah found the cafe silent and locked. Lily arrived next and saw broken ceilings through glass. Arthur came for tea and found only worried faces. Maya and Ben arrived, expecting the familiar warm light. They realized none of them was Mara's only guest. Each described a different moment beside the same chair. Who would help the woman who quietly helped everyone? Maya carried Mara's story faster than any delivery before. Arthur explained how one shared cup softened his grief. Lily told students where hope kept lights burning late. Ben called every craftsperson still owing kindness somewhere else. By nightfall, 40 strangers carried chairs toward Mara's cafe. The landlord arrived, insisting the damaged building remain closed. Noah described the meal that had restored his dignity. Lily explained how the cafe protected her learning future. Arthur described when silence stopped feeling like punishment completely. Maya and Ben showed how kindness had multiplied itself. The landlord witnessed something money alone could never measure. He granted them 2 days to make everything safe. The room instantly filled with hands prepared for work. Ben led carpenters rebuilding every weakened section of roof. Electricians restored lights that welcomed countless lonely people inside. Lily and classmates covered water stains with fresh color. Noah repaired pipes, learning quickly from every willing neighbor. Maya carried supplies through relentless rain without stopping once. Arthur polished every cup like one treasured memory carefully. Local shops refilled shelves Mara had emptied for others. Children added stars where rain had broken through earlier. Even the landlord removed his coat and carried boards. All night, separate lives moved like one determined body. By sunrise, the cafe felt warmer than in years. Mara returned only to collect her few remaining belongings. For seconds, she believed she reached the wrong street. Then doors opened and familiar faces turned toward her. They carried out the chair that welcomed everyone. One by one, they revealed what that chair gave. Mara finally understood her kindness had never disappeared anywhere. The landlord returned her keys and welcomed her inside. The cafe opened, no longer owned by one person. Everyone contributed something, so no giver carried everything alone. The empty chair remained ready for whoever arrived next. That evening, shy Ava paused outside the glowing window. Mara opened and pointed gently toward the waiting chair. This time, Mara was not keeping someone safe alone. Then Arthur noticed the brass key against Mara's apron. He recognized the star engraved by his late wife. The woman saving Mara was Arthur's beloved late wife. Kindness traveled through time, returning as a people-filled room. 30 neighbors ran through the storm toward one locked basement door. Behind that swollen wooden door, Evan was trapped completely alone. Most of the people outside barely even knew his name. Yet every one of them believed his life truly mattered. To understand why, we must return to the previous morning. Evan lived beneath the stairs of an aging apartment building. His tiny room contained nearly everything he still owned. A jacket, some tools, and one faded childhood photograph. That morning, he carefully counted the last coins in his jar. There was not enough money to survive another difficult week. Still, Evan wrapped his mustard yellow scarf around his neck. It was the one possession he would never consider selling. Years earlier, an unknown stranger had given it to him. Evan no longer remembered the stranger's face or voice. He only remembered how suddenly the world had felt safer. That small feeling quietly shaped the man Evan later became. He repaired broken objects at a tiny neighborhood workshop. But lately, fewer customers had been walking through the door. That morning, the owner closed the workshop for the final time. Without warning, Evan had lost his only source of income. He carried his tools home beneath a heavy gray sky. Each step felt more difficult than the one before it. Then he noticed Nora beside a damaged bus shelter. Her umbrella had turned completely inside out in the wind. The nearest safe building was several wet streets away. Evan looked at his umbrella and then looked at Nora. For him, the decision required almost no thought at all. He carefully placed the strong blue umbrella into her hands. Nora tried to refuse, pointing anxiously toward the cold rain. Evan only smiled and pulled his yellow scarf much tighter. Nora watched him disappear slowly down the shining wet street. Our minds remember people who make frightening moments feel smaller. Evan entered Mr. Chen's grocery store completely soaked and shivering. Mr. Chen offered him a towel and a cup of tea. Evan spent his final coins on bread and warm soup. It would be the only meal he could afford that day. Outside the store, he heard the sound of hunger. Mia sat beneath an awning, pretending she was perfectly fine. Her mother searched nearby shops, hoping to find temporary work. Mia smiled whenever Evan glanced gently in her direction. But hunger is difficult to hide from someone who knows it. Evan sat beside her and slowly opened his brown satchel. He divided the small loaf into 2 very unequal pieces. Then he quietly gave Mia the much larger half. She stared at the bread as though it were treasure. Evan also placed the warm bowl of soup into her hands. He claimed he had already eaten earlier at the workshop. Mia believed him, because true kindness often sounds completely ordinary. When Lena returned, she immediately understood what Evan had done. She thanked him, but Evan quickly changed the conversation. Quiet helpers rarely understand how many people are actually watching. Across the street, a delivery cart suddenly lost one wheel. Evan ignored his hunger and opened his old toolbox again. Within minutes, the damaged wheel was turning smoothly once more. The driver offered payment, but Evan politely refused the money. By afternoon, the steady rain had become much colder. His wet clothes clung heavily to his tired body. Even then, he stopped beside another familiar apartment doorway. Mr. Samuel's hallway lamp had stopped working once again. Evan repaired the broken lamp without waiting to be asked. Warm golden light returned to the lonely, narrow hallway. Samuel invited him inside, but Evan politely declined the offer. Sometimes lonely people offer company because they need it too. Evan finally reached his basement apartment shortly before sunset. Inside, the room felt colder than the street outside. His small heaters had stopped working during the previous night. He opened his toolbox, but his hands were already trembling. For the first time that day, Evan allowed himself to rest. Helping other people had not repaired his own painful problems. Kindness does not always create an immediate visible reward. Sometimes it leaves us wondering whether anybody even noticed. A small weather radio warned that a powerful storm was coming. Evan noticed rainwater collecting near the outside basement drain. If the drain stayed blocked, his entire room could flood. He returned outside carrying a shovel and a metal bucket. He worked alone while every nearby window slowly became dark. The storm suddenly knocked out power across the neighborhood. Wind pushed branches, paper, leaves, and mud toward the drain. Evan cleared one pile, but another immediately replaced it. Cold water was already rising around his soaked black shoes. Then a heavy branch crashed across the basement stairway. A violent gust slammed the wooden doors shut behind him. Swollen by rain, the door could no longer be opened. Water began slipping underneath it and entering his tiny room. Evan shouted for help, but thunder swallowed every desperate word. His flashlight flickered weakly, then finally disappeared into darkness. For several seconds, he heard nothing except the rising water. Then someone suddenly struck the small window from outside. It was Mia, holding a tiny glowing battery-powered lantern. She recognized Evan because his yellow scarf glowed through the glass. Mia ran through the storm toward her mother and Mr. Chen. Mr. Chen remembered the soaked man who had shared his meal. The delivery worker remembered the stranger who repaired his cart. Samuel remembered the warm light returning to his lonely hallway. And Nora remembered the blue umbrella beside her front door. She opened that umbrella and stepped directly into the storm. Then she knocked urgently on every door along the street. She did not ask whether the neighbors personally knew Evan. She asked whether they could leave any person there alone. Within minutes, the empty street filled with glowing lanterns. People who had never spoken began working side by side. Mr. Chen organized a line to carry away the water. The delivery worker used his repaired cart to move the branch. Samuel wrapped warm blankets around the coldest rescue volunteers. Lena held the rope while Mia protected her small lantern. Nora stayed beside the window, speaking calmly to frightened Evan. Her voice reminded him that he was no longer alone. Together, the neighbors finally pulled the heavy branch aside. Several strong hands forced the swollen basement door wide open. Evan stepped outside into a wall of waiting faces. He could not understand why so many people had come. Then Mia placed her remaining piece of bread into his hands. Mr. Chen gave him a large bowl of steaming soup. Samuel welcomed everyone into his newly illuminated warm hallway. Small acts of kindness had created an invisible human network. Each person had received enough courage to help somebody else. Then Nora noticed the faded stitching on Evan's yellow scarf. Her late husband had sewn that same mark many years earlier. He was the stranger who once helped a frightened child. Kindness had returned, not as payment, but as a community.